Safety precautions were taken during the making of this video to minimize the risk of COVID-19 transmissions among volunteers and staff involved in this project. Please note that the primary presenter may be unmasked. This allows the speaker's voice to be more clearly heard and understood. All others involved in this production and in proximity are masked and taking all necessary precautions. All tools being presented have been sanitized for the safety of the presentation and team. During this presentation, brand names of products may be visible or mentioned. This is in no way an endorsement of any merchandise. The products shown and the discussions surrounding them are for the informational purposes only and not to be construed in a positive or negative context.
Hello, and welcome to the Williamsburg Botanical Garden. This wonderful environment is managed and maintained by a diverse group of volunteers who care deeply for the plants, the trees, and the beautiful grounds that support a multitude of nature's beautiful species. We are so fortunate to be able to use this special location in this video that will follow to show you all of our beautiful pruning way.
Hi, my name is Harry Fall. I have been a Master Gardener for about 3 years. This year, I've been asked to take the lead on our pruning clinic project. Unfortunately, because of the COVID pandemic, we're not allowed to go to people's houses and teach them hand-to-hand, face-to-face how to do pruning. So we've elected as a team, all the people you've met, as a team to produce 3 videos. And I'm proud to be part of that team, and I'm proud to be working with the Master Gardeners out here.
Hi, my name is Kim, and I'm a new Master Gardener intern. I took the class in 2019, just before COVID, thank goodness, and I get the wonderful chance of working at different projects throughout Williamsburg County and learning and growing and educating not only kids in the elementary school, but also our adults in our community.
I am Bill Dicktel. I'm a Master Gardener here in Williamsburg and work in quite a few of the projects. One of my favorite projects is the pruning project here with Harry, and look forward to working with the Master Gardeners through a lot of the projects during the coming year.
Hi, my name is Yvonne. I've been a Master Gardener for 10 years now. 2010 was when I became a Master Gardener, worked on various projects. Pruning was one of my earlier projects as an intern, and I'm happy to help with this video today.
Once again, we welcome you to another pruning conversation at the Williamsburg, Virginia Botanical Garden. Today we'll discuss and concentrate on why do we prune, the whys of pruning. What are the benefits of pruning? Why is pruning of value to your plants, trees, and your property? Contributing to today's discussions are Williamsburg James City Master Gardeners, Kim, Yvonne, Patricia, Bill, myself, Harry, and our videographer, Arden. This is another in the pruning video series that is serving as a substitute for the traditional pruning clinics, which are in abeyance due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Please see our other videos in this series that have been produced to enhance your knowledge of these important processes, the hows of making the correct cuts, and tool selection and maintenance. What we're going to do is take a little roundtable discussion of all of our Master Gardeners here. And the first question I'd like to ask everybody is, why do we prune? We're going to go down a whole list of reasons why we prune. Kim, can you give me the first one, why we would prune?
The first thing we want to look at is the health of the plant. And the health of the plant contains a multitude of things. Is it diseased, damaged, or dead? And if it is got some disease and it's dead, we definitely want to remove that first and foremost, because if we don't, that can provide some kind of hazard to not only our property, but people who come to visit us. But then the overall appearance. We want our plants to look nice and healthy. We want them to look healthy through every season of their time period on our property.
As Kim was saying, if part of the plant is diseased, the problem is the diseased part stays there and can spread the disease to all the rest of the plant. So the whole rest of the plant then can become diseased. And not only that, the plants adjacent to it are subject to disease as well. So getting rid of the disease on the plant is really important. And just as important is when you prune the diseased part away, make sure you disinfect your tools so you're not spreading the disease to other parts of the plant.
Pruning sometimes is necessary if a tree has been damaged and you need to start a new leader for the tree. So that's another reason for pruning.
Another reason that we prune a tree, you have a dense canopy in the tree. If it gets too dense, you don't get proper air circulation through the tree, and you don't get proper amount of sunlight, both of which are needed for the tree's food propagation. It needs this for its food sources, sunlight and air. So we've got to thin that out. And really important is to remove any crossing, rubbing branches. These can cause wounds in a tree, which allows the insects or other disease that we spoke about just a moment ago to enter these wounded areas. Those are your primary reasons. I mean, there's a multitude of other reasons why we would prune, but this is just one of them. Another reason is to control the size of the plant. And if one of you would like to comment on controlling the size of the plant.
Okay, so among the many other reasons that we prune are to direct the growth on the young plants. So we have to start very early, and we're going to be getting to that as we work around the gardens here today and to give you some examples. We also do it to control the size of our older plants. And so many people move into houses where they have things that they're 20 years old, 40 years old, and you're spending multiple weeks every year pruning down those hedges. And this goes right back to the case of right plant, right place. But it's basically keeping a shape like that, or doing special shapes like topiary or espalier. And what's important here, again, going back to hedging, is that if you do hedge, that you keep a shape that is more triangular, top down, so sun always hits inside. Otherwise, I'm sure we've all seen what we call helmet head on hedges, where just an outside canopy of green is growing and everything else is dead inside. So it's important even how you prune your hedges.
Harry, what Patricia just said about pruning the trees to keep it to a size, I've heard in the past that you're not supposed to prune a tree as soon as you plant it, and you should wait for a year or so before you start to prune. Is that correct or not?
Yvonne, when you plant a new plant, what you want to do is, if you have a lot of small, what they call lateral branches coming off your trunk, not the scaffold branches. Scaffold branches are your main branches that come off the trunk. But some small lateral branches that might come off of those, and some small ones that are on the actual trunk itself. In the first year, sometimes even 2 years, depending on your climate, you want to leave those on there. The reason you want to leave those on is, one, they protect the bark of the main stem from sun scald. When you're in a hot climate, it can really hurt the bark. Two, they're a food source. Right now, this plant is throwing so much energy into producing a new root structure because you just planted it, and it also wants to come up and produce all the leaves and the flowers or whatever type of tree it is. It wants to do all these things at once. So it needs as much leaf surface as it can get, so it can absorb as much sunlight and create photosynthesis with this, sending all of its energy into the plant itself. Now, to go one step further with that, after a year, perhaps 2 years, you're going to take that and you're going to trim these small branches off. After the tree has established itself, trim up to the main scaffold branches, which are going to be your bottom limbs coming off of the main trunk or stem. And everything underneath that gets trimmed off. And so that's pretty much where we are. That will depend on species and climate. 1, 2 years, sometimes even 3. Bill, can you talk to us a little bit about rejuvenation of plants?
Rejuvenation of older trees and shrubs, or trees and shrubs that have not been pruned for a while, is very important. They often will grow very thick stems, that canes that are very thick and don't get a lot of air in through them. They'll not grow correctly. So what often is done then is a several-year process to rejuvenate, where some of the taller canes, for example, have to be taken out, or for older trees, various limbs that are improperly grown have to be sorted out. various suckers, various limbs that are crossing or growing improperly have to be sorted out and pruned, and that is done for several years over a 3-year process until the tree has been largely replaced.
Bill, is there such a thing as a total rejuvenation of a plant?
Yes, there is, and that is a several-year process to do that. But there is a process of doing it all at one time, a total rejuvenation.
Yeah, oftentimes in a total rejuvenation, I mean, you're exactly right, a 3-year process, and we're going to be showing that on camera here shortly. But there's also another one that you can use, and that is to take your plant and you take it completely down. We're going to just rejuvenate this all the way down. And I want to make a point here. Some people will say that's pretty dramatic, pretty drastic. But if you understand something about the way plant physiology works, it's the harder you prune, the more vigorous the growth is going to come back. And there's certain exceptions to that, but most of the time that's the case. So if we took a plant and we took every one of the stems down, especially if it's a canning type plant, every one of the stems down 5 to 10 inches off the ground, in all probability, you're going to get a tremendous amount of new growth in the following year.
So Harry, we talked earlier about the appearance and the 3Ds and why we do the pruning because of the 3Ds, but I don't think we really fully addressed the 4th D, which I think is very important to elaborate on. So would you mind answering that and letting our viewers know why it's important on that 4th D?
Well, to answer the question of the 3Ds, the dead, damaged, or diseased, all of those are dangerous. All of those present a danger factor to passerbys, to vehicles that are parked underneath them, and so forth. So all of that boils down to one, and that's dangerous. All 3 of those boil to that one, and I want to drive that into your heads. Dangerous. Anytime you have a broken limb, anytime you have a diseased body in that tree or that shrub, anytime that you have something that's dead, that's got to come out of there immediately. It just has to come out right then. And don't waste the time. Now, you're going to take all the normal safety precautions. I don't want you to think that because you have a broken limb from a storm the other day that you don't take safety precautions. Absolutely not. But you want to get that out of there just as soon as you can so you can make sure, 1, the tree becomes healthy or remains healthy. 2, so nobody that's walking underneath, or as I mentioned a few moments ago, someone driving underneath it or parked underneath it's going to have damage to them. So that 4th one is so terribly important, that 4th D. Here at the Williamsburg, Virginia Botanical Garden, one of the things that I do constantly, every week throughout the year, is I walk all of our paths. And I make sure that there are no branches, twigs, flower stems, or anything else that could scratch somebody, hurt somebody, damage somebody in any way, shape, or form. We have to keep the paths clean. This is all part of the danger factor. So we respond to this dangerous thing through proactive pruning. That's where we are. It's all through proactive pruning to keep everybody safe and healthy.
So we're here, I'm here next to a beautyberry, which is a native shrub here in our area. And due to the fact that it's probably a great plant, but it's in the wrong place on this path, because you can see where someone tried to prune it back thinking they were keeping someone safe because it was getting dangerous, it was sticking out. But the error that was made in pruning should have been a full thinning cut, and it should have taken these branches that were sticking out now all the way back to its original stem to help the plant for safety as well, but also to help rejuvenate what was been cut. We also have some cross branching that was done in here. So again, this is a great plant. It just was planted in the wrong place, and so we're going to end up having to probably cut it fully back and do a full prune on it. So what we're going to do now is demonstrate a full rejuvenation. We're going to take this shrub, which is unfortunately going to have to go all the way down, so that, again, when you prune something this hard, it creates a vigorous grow back. This hardwood will come back with more strength. It's got a lot of cross branching, broken, bad pruning up here. So in order to give it a fighting chance, we're going to go ahead and just prune it back and take it back down, and that way she'll just continue to keep growing. So we're going to start about right here. so that if we do get any kind of frost or any problems, we can take it down a little bit further and still not damage the tree. Just keep moving your branches out of the way, watching your face, wear your safety glasses. And we'll just let all that go together. And there. Upon review after my cuts, I wanted to point out this is a great review and educational tip. This branch obviously gave me a little bit harder cut to do, and you can see with this cut, because it was tougher, I kind of twisted my cut, creating some damage here with my cut. This is not a smooth cut like the rest of them, so I don't want to leave it like this. I want to go back over it one more time and really work hard on getting a complete clean cut off that branch, so that now as it grows, it'll be healthier with its enzymes and nutrients that will go to that branch and help it rejuvenate.
We've talked about total rejuvenation a little bit earlier. This is going to be a partial rejuvenation. This is going to be what Bill referred to earlier as a 3-year project. This is a bridal veil spirea. Absolutely stunning plant. But it's a caning type plant. That means it has a number of stems coming up from the base. And the problem that we have here, this hasn't been pruned out in several years. Down below, there's just way too many stems, and I'll just point them out real quick. There should be 1/3 of that many stems down there. Now, let's come up around the outside and take a look at this. All of this is way out over the edge of the walking path that people are on. So now we have a danger situation as well. Both dangerous to the people passing by, and also it can be breaking branches on this bridal veil. Now, look at the height that we have. This should be a nice round cap on this. It shouldn't be so scraggly looking as you see here. So we're going to do 2 things today. We're going to remove several stems from the base, and we're also going to just remove a couple of the tall pieces from the top. I'm not going to do complete rejuvenation because this is going to take me, probably better part of half of a day to finish this plant up. But this will be a 3-year project when I'm done. We're going to remove, in this pruning season, we'll remove 1/3 of the stems this year. We'll completely prune the top into a nice shape. Next year, we'll take the next oldest 1/3, because there's going to be new ones coming up. And the 3rd year, we're going to take out the last of the old wood. So in 3 years, we'll have a completely new rejuvenated plant. We're going to make some cuts down here. Just a moment.
I'm doing some thinning cuts. I'm going to take the branch back to the original stem.
Yvonne, why are you doing thinning cuts?
To let more air into the tree for circulation, so the tree will need that.
Yvonne, you're making thinning cuts, and you're doing exactly right. You're letting additional air and sunlight in. But why these particular branches on this rejuvenation?
I'm making these cuts because the branches are actually falling in the pathway, so this will keep the tree from being harmed as well.
We have a sweet gum tree that is natural born. It's not like a nursery grown tree. It's not something that's been transplanted into a yard. But nonetheless, we're going to use this as a demonstration because it's a perfect example of what we were talking about before. A tree that needs to have, after it's 2 or 3 or 4 years old, to have the bottom branches removed, the branches that have been covering it for sun scald, the branches that have been generating nutrients for it. So now this tree is old enough where we can remove these bottom branches right here. We can remove this competing little one that's growing up from the same root structure. Remember, that's from the same root structure as this one with the 3-inch girth. So by removing this, now all of that nutrients that are being generated and this is feeding on are going to be sent into this one. We're going to come up to these main scaffold branches. There are 3 of them. These will be the bottom branches on your tree. So that does a number of things. One, you got a beautiful shaped tree when this occurs. Two, as this tree grows up, that's going to be above head height. So you're going to have a nice straight stem coming up to these bottom branches. Nothing else is going to be in here. And they're going to be wider than anything else above it, so they're going to be tremendous food generators with sun and air and water. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take off everything down below these three main scaffold branches that I'm pointing to right here. So we're going to get somebody in here right now to prune these off, prune them carefully, and we're going to have a beautiful tree when we're done. You'll see that all that growth at the bottom has cleared away, much less shade down there. I don't want to become repetitive on this. Better air circulation. These three scaffold branches are your main limbs that are coming out now and will form the base of your tree.
So following up on the example that we just had earlier where Yvonne went in and took care of lower limbs that were due to be taken care of since the tree had already established itself, and just like this beautiful dogwood here, we have what we call our main scaffold branches that have come out just nice and perfect. It's grown up to the right height. So these branches down here that are down at my eye level and head level really are should have been removed after this tree had reached a certain 1.5 year, 2-year height on age. And so this could have been taken off, this branch, this particular branch, and the one back here that's shooting off it. Not such a great angle to make this tree, this limb won't be healthy if it continues to go this route. But here's your true scaffolding, and this tree, if it could be, these branches would be removed, it would be gorgeous.
Kim, was that supposed to be taken off? How long after the tree was planted?
At least a year to a 1.5 years, depending upon, you know, how it was growing, how it looked, if those branches were down and touching the ground, they needed to be removed because we don't want the trees down here to be touching the ground because of fungus and other diseases that can be taken up. So once you see these established scaffold branches, it's time to take these off.
Here we have an American holly, and one of the big concerns is that we've got a lot of sharp leaves that are hanging down right at eye level, and we're right here in the main pathway for the botanical garden. So we'd like to get some of these limbs trimmed so they're not down at a level that's quite so dangerous. So I want to do some cuts that will be made to get these out of eye range. So I'm looking for more of these branches that are hanging down near eye level because these are sharp leaves that are sticking out, and we're thinning them back to their main branches. There are also a lot of crossing branches in these too. These are getting high enough that for everyone but Harry, I think they're pretty safe.
All right, Bill, you commented a moment ago that you're removing branches and there's a lot of crossing branches up there and so forth.
Yes.
If you stood back and looked at this entire tree, looked at it from underneath and back where I'm at, you stay right there, and would it be possible to remove larger limbs further back and get rid, instead of making 100 small cuts, maybe make 5 large cuts?
Very definitely. And in fact, farther back, there are a lot of branches that are crossing right near their origin. So that definitely needs to be done. Back in this area here, where they're out over the path, I want to do that for the danger issue, but definitely what you're saying needs to be addressed too.
I understand. Now, I see you're using, what kind of pruner is that you're using, and what's the purpose of that pruner?
This is a bypass pruner, and it is wonderful for making fairly fine cuts for things that are 3/4 of an inch or higher. has enough strength to it to do cuts that the hand pruners are not able to do, and has enough length that I can get well above my head and make cuts.
So if I'm not mistaken, Bill, what you're doing right now is you would get rid of all the low-hanging branches from a safety standpoint. And then at some future point, you would come back and take a look up into the actual tree structure and remove crossing branches and other things that may be rubbing and so forth and so forth. Am I correct?
That's absolutely correct.
In December of 18, the Williamsburg area had a tremendously heavy snowfall. It caused just untold damage here in the Botanical Garden and throughout the community. This swamp dogwood was one of the casualties. This limb right here came all the way down to the ground. It literally broke right here. And the person that really works in this area, she dearly wanted to try and save this swamp dogwood. So what I've done, first of all, you can see there's a big 4x4 behind it. I sunk that 4x4 in the ground, and then I put strapping from this limb up to the top of the 4x4 to pull it back up into position. But yet we still had this huge break in here. So I was betting that this would heal. And now you can see the callus wood forming along here. That's a natural heal callus wood. That means that eventually this will close up. Now, did this limb live? It certainly did. But take a look at all of the water shoots that have grown up from this. So many of them. Now, water shoots can or cannot be healthy. Normally, the first thing you want to do when you see a water shoot is to trim it off. And generally, by the way, they come up in the same location where you trimmed other branches off. And most of the branches where these water shoots were broken during that storm. So, we have this branch now tied up, this limb tied up, and water shoots coming off of it. Why didn't I trim back these water shoots? Now, this is almost 2 years of healing, of sealing and healing right here. Good. What we're going to do now is we're going to come from where these suckers are growing, and we're going to come up to here where the water shoots are growing, off of that break, and up to the top of the tree. Now, you see we're starting to get a nice canopy off of these water shoots. Within 2 to 3 years, I believe that we can bring this back to a properly shaped swampwood bell canopy. What we have here, we have I'll use just a generic name, it's a Chinese snowball viburnum. This tree is absolutely astounding when it blooms in the springtime. It just stands out in the Williamsburg Botanical Garden like you would not believe. You get these huge, big white snowballs at the end of each one of these limbs and throughout. It's like a giant snowstorm with 10-inch snowflakes. It really is phenomenal. But unfortunately, we have an issue. And the issue is disease. This is one of the main stems of the tree, probably one of the original stems. And you can see it's heavily diseased. Now, I haven't done research as to what's causing this, but that disease has spread over to here. See that on down? The disease has spread into these areas way off to my left and up. It's really spreading through the entire tree. Before we do any corrective action on this, of course, we have to determine what it is. But if the corrective action, and I'm assuming this is what's going to happen, it's going to have to be cut back. This tree might need a complete rejuvenation. It's going to eliminate all that beautiful growth I just described for our visitors to the Williamsburg Botanical Garden.